Cheers.
Cheers.
Here goes nothing.
Yes, yes, yes. And the next World Cup is?
Ooh. I don't know. Do they still do
Uruguay. Well, they're doing it.
Well, I'm very pleased to say that I'm here with Ed Pickford, and I know that you've only done 2 or 3 interviews before this, and one of them seemed almost by stealth. Somebody had said to you, "Oh, let's have a catch up," and then there'd actually been a reporter, and
That's right. Yeah.
So I feel very privileged that you've decided that we can have a chat now.
No, it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah. So you're very passionate about songwriting. That's obvious.
Yes.
So what I'd like to know is, I mean, I'm not going to be asking the question like which comes first, the words or the music, or those kind of things, because as far as I'm concerned, they come at the same time. You subconsciously.
Well, I mean, they said that to an old American songwriter once. They said, "What comes first, the words or the music?" And he said, "The contract." So that's being a professional about it.
Yes.
But I suppose what you're talking about is just the passion that comes naturally somehow.
Right. But you started songwriting quite early. I mean, I presume it was about 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, it was at school. I mean, it was the time. I mean, I suppose when you look back, you can see how it's some kind of serendipity or fortunate that the rise of Lonnie Donegan and skiffle music allowed people with, you know, barely limited musical skills, technical skills, to get involved in music. And I think it was that. And the next point, I think, was looking at Donegan records and seeing the name Guthrie appearing. In fact, Guthrie Donegan, which is a bit naughty, as I know now. But then discovering Guthrie in the fabulous Alan and John Lomax books about the American folk music.
Yes.
And then that was the opening up of it for me. And the next step, and then you're off running, of course, is meeting up with Louis Killen and John Reevy and various people at the Liberal Club, and being exposed to English traditional music, which I'd never known before, really.
Right, but did you have any performers or any music in your family? Did anybody play musical instruments?
Well, you know, everybody tinkles on the piano a little bit, or tries to play Over the Sea to Sky or something with the harmonica, but no real music. Maybe country and western in me aunts, you know. I used to sing things like Your Cheating Heart and so on, which I still like.
So how were you received as a songwriter? Because at that time it was quite unusual. We were all used, I suppose at that time, to songs from Tin Pan Alley, which were written by professional songwriters. So for you, I mean, was it the
only thing I can talk of with any surety is the way I got involved or interested in this kind of thing, really. I don't know, people must come in from all different directions. But when I look back now, I think I was always looking for songs that said something different. So when Tennessee Ernie Ford was singing 16 Tons, I kind of knew there was something different there.
Right. But
of course didn't have any access to where that treasure trove might be until the Lomax thing. And I better pay a tribute as well, of course, from the being exposed to traditional music to the Elliots, coinciding with the Elliots starting their club. And that provides the platform for what you want to do.
All right. So did you have a number of songs that you'd written? I mean,
no, not really. No, I was still at school, and the first song I remember writing, it was about we had a teacher that annoyed me, and I think being angry about something is a great motivation for writing songs. So I surreptitiously wrote a song about him, you know, having a nicotine nose and stuff like this, and various things. But then we met up and we did the skiffle thing like millions and millions of people do, and it was then that I initially started trying to have a partner in writing, but I soon that didn't work for me. And one of the first songs that I wrote was Pound a Week Rise, I think. And,
really?
Oh yes. So I was about 19.
All right. Well, you sent me a copy of that. That was recorded probably round about that time.
That's right.
Because the words that people sing now is 1960, a long time ago. But on the version you sent me, it said 1960, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So
well, you know, I went through the 1960s singing
3 years.
3 years ago, 4 years ago, and 5 years ago. And I thought this is getting a bit ridiculous, so I just dropped the song altogether, you see.
Just
dropped it, and I never did it again until about, must be about 1974. Dick Gocken rang me up once, and it had been recorded by a group called the Exiles in London, but I didn't know too much about them. One was a great singer, Enoch Kent, and they were an interesting group. But I'd just forgotten about the song, and Dick rang me up and asked for the words, and I thought, what on earth does he want the words of that for, you know, because it's 1960.
Did you know Dick at that time?
Just, you know, nodding terms really, you know, know him when he came around the folk clubs and things.
How did the Exiles get a copy of the song? I mean, was it on a reel or a cassette or?
Trying to think, I don't know really.
Do you think in the truest form, you'd sung it, somebody else had sung it, and they got to hear it, so rather than it being written down or recorded in that way?
Yeah. No, I never thought about that. I don't know. In fact, there's a great recording still by Enoch Kent, but I think that's part of the mystery of folk song. I mean, I was perplexed that Dick wanted to sing a song that was about, 14 years earlier, because, just thinking songs are disposable, and that's about a pay rise in 1960 and so on. And but it just shows you some songs mysteriously carry on.
Well, recently you were at the Speakeasy in Sunderland, and then you were saying, I've no idea why young people would be singing this, because it talks about money that they don't know anything about. But surely
but in Australia and America and anyway, like Germany,
all right,
you're talking about £5 a week or something, or 10 bob. So I just don't understand it.
Yeah, I have tried to work out in inflation terms how much £1 a week. I mean, you can't get a cup of coffee for £1 now. But
I don't think you could translate the song in that kind of way. I once heard or saw online somebody analysing it alongside, or maybe it's because of its longevity, analysing it alongside the Golden Vanity, which took me by surprise as well, because I didn't think of any connection between there. It's just about betrayal, you see.
Right. Oh, I see.
The thing of betrayal. So I don't know. But that's the mystery of songs. Really.
Can I just ask you? It's like, have you suffered from analysis? Your songs, I mean.
Well, on the odd occasion it's happened. I mean, I find that quite amusing, really. I mean, you just do the best you can, don't you?
Yeah.
As my old friend says, and that's it.
But with the £1 a week rise, I hadn't realised that was so early in your songwriting life.
I was 19 when I did that. So I worked it out from the dates when I sang it at Berkeley Club and so on. And it was also the first song. And you start at the top and work your way down, I suppose. But Ewan McCall was at the Red Lion at Berkeley the first night I did that. And he sent Peggy down. Nobody ever... When anybody deals with me, they always send an in-between.
Yes, send a representative,
And she came down for the words. So Ewan actually used to sing it as well. And the last time I saw him during the miners' strike, he said to me, you know that song of yours? And I said, yeah, Panwick Rises. I sang it in Spain in front of 10,000 students, when Franco was in Spain. So Ewan used to sing it as well, but he didn't record it, unfortunately. Yeah.
So maybe that's where the Exiles heard
it.
Maybe. But you've been associated with songs of social conscience and especially within the unions and things like this. What was it that drove you? Do you feel compelled to write sometimes?
Yes, and I mean, I'm not saying I would fight against it, because, you're just grateful if anything comes along, aren't you? But I think that's definitely... in my background, as a kid, being inculcated into politics and talking politics all the time, and from a left-wing perspective, and that comes through all the time, unfortunately. Or fortunately, perhaps, it just comes through. And you just keep, I think sometimes you think, I'll do something else, which I do, but a lot of the strength comes from the past and little phrases, words. I mean, I'm doing something even at the moment that something that my mother said, and I was just thinking about it the other day, and I thought, oh, I'll work on that. But now that I'm older, I don't know whether it's going to be a poem or a song or whatever, and I'm much more relaxed about it. But I think there was a lot of passion, say, about Pound a Week Rise, because it was an important thing at that time. And I think, you know, you drive your passion into your song, and maybe that kind of anger is the thing that gives its longevity or something. And I find it amazing when you see, how many generations? Two or three?
Yeah.
Singing that song. It's incredible.
I mean, one of the things you've said to me is if you speak the truth, then
it'll have a
long life.
Yeah.
But at that time, a Pound a Week Rise was almost on the borders of sedition, to be honest.
Well, I'm sure it was Mike Harden blamed me for getting himself banned from the BBC because of that song, really. And he told me, or somebody told me, that the BBC banned it.
Right.
So I suppose that's the kind of thing that they would do, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, they've relented ever since. I mean, sometimes it's the most positive thing you can ever do to get something banned by the BBC, of course. You know.
Yeah, Sex Pistols, Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Goes to Hollywood and so on.
All of these kind of things.
It's a career move.
Yeah. I mean, one of the bits of advice you've given to me was just keep going and do it for enjoyment.
Yeah.
I think... I mean, what you pointed out was, like, enjoyment doesn't necessarily mean, like, entertainment, but enjoyment for yourself.
Well, absolutely. I think everybody, if they're honest, they do it for themselves first, and then afterwards, if it has some resonance with somebody, that's very, very good. And I think you cannot tell people either what to write, how to do it, or whatever. But I think what you can do is say that's good, or support people, just morally.
Yes.
And push them along the way. And they'll find their own path, won't they? And find their own subjects and so on.
I find it surprising that you're surprised that your songs have lasted so long and that people enjoy them.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody... I mean, I've come across some ludicrous people who said to me, I remember a guy said, he says, I'm not well. Never written a song ever before. He says, I'm not well, so I think I'm going to write some songs so my wife gets the royalties. And I thought, well...
Dream on sometime.
Mad?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you've got to enjoy yourself or be passionate about it and so on. And if you go, but I do find strength in the songs like Pound a Week Rise or One Miner's Life. The Worker song sums up an awful lot. Or Union Banner, or the song that you've just done brilliantly. And that took ages to get to that stage.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to be patient as well.
Right. I mean, we were talking recently. I've had a song that I'd written about the River Tees, and it was supposedly for a choir who never turned up, and they sent a load of 3 and 4 year olds to look at me singing the song about the River Tees. So basically, I wound up doing Old MacDonald Had a Farm, and left the song for 10 years. But I've had a recent chance to do it. So you said that there's nothing ever wasted.
Well, there's nothing really. I remember one time, I think it was Mike Watterson telling me he wanted to do some for a show he did in Hull, and he'd just taken 2 songs and cut them and joined them up. And the other day I was sitting listening to a song that it's quite kind of complicated, but I was quite pleased with it. But it doesn't seem to sort of have any resonance with people. And I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll take the last verse in the front and then work out from there. So I'm going to do it back to front, more or less. I mean, anything,
like a flashback.
Anything goes. Anything goes, really.
I mean, you are very prolific in the amount of songs that you've written. And do you find that you try tricks? And do you know when a song's finished? I suppose is really what I want to ask you.
No, I don't think so, and I don't think anybody ever does. I've seen interviews with John Lennon where he says song's never finished, and it isn't. There's a song I've done recently about May We Never See Such Times Again. I've written it about 6 or 7 times. I give it to somebody in Newcastle, and they're getting sick of changing the words each time.
But isn't that the beauty? The beauty of a song.
Well, it is for me because I'm also a kind of a scientist in a certain ways. You know that I believe in experimentation of songs, music, and everything. And I think later, I mean, I would never give anybody advice on how to do anything. But But I do think, I find anyway, that if you've done something 3 times with people, it sounds a bit magic, maybe it should be 7, but three times, and it doesn't seem to get a feedback.
All right.
You've got to go, if you really like it, you better take it back and take it apart again and put it together if you think it's good enough. But that's where I feel as well. But you never know. I don't think there is a way of pinning it down, any rules or anything like that.
It's a bit like making a meal or writing a book.
That's why you have got to do it. It's better than being an actor who's waiting for the telephone to ring. If you've got a pen or a computer, you can just do it yourself.
Mm-hmm. I was recently at the Wilson's Club and we'd just done the recording, and I had 3 of your songs, plus they had the I Am Coal song as well, and it was I think it was Mike said, I didn't realise this was a preview for the album. But what he said was, oh great, so like good old Ed, so like no 2 songs the same, because you have crossed like a lot of genres.
Yeah. I mean, I think a wise commercial move often is to stay within a narrow band, I've got to say. But I couldn't do that.
No.
You've just got to do something that reflects the way you feel at that moment.
Right.
So I was reading one day, somebody said, there's a lot of people walking around with Che Guevara t-shirts on. And they don't know who he is.
Yes.
I mean, that's a song to me.
Yes.
I mean, that's funny.
Yes.
Now, if you had your wise old hat on, you would say, well, that's funny, and I don't want to make people laugh. And all. But you just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
All right. So you were like skiffle era, country and western.
Well, no country and western.
Well, you said was it your aunts might sing an odd?
Oh yes, yes, they did.
But when I'm not saying your country and western.
No,
but I'm talking about your background.
It did remind me of a story when I was in a kind of a comedy group, really, that we were booked in Whitley Bay one time, and we walked in, and they said to us, we looked around, it was obviously a country and western club. So agents, the fear of agents in a country and western club, and the man behind the bar said, should I open the back door so you can get the drums in?
Right.
And we looked at each other and jumped in the car and fled.
All right. Well, there's another aspect of this. I used to do work in men's clubs, and you'd get booked into places, and they never used to get my name right. So I'd be like Tom McWilliams, comedy, country and western, and I'm going like, I don't do this. And you die 1,000 deaths, so...
Only did it once.
How many deaths have you died? 100,000. Yeah.
And now for the comedian.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah. I mean, I don't mean this like anecdotalised, but
no.
At the Southtown Folk Festival in '74, it was supposed to be country meets folk, and all of the country acts had pulled out, and we'd won the duo, trio, solo, and band setting. So he said, "Now we haven't got country favour on. Please put your hands together for Tony Wilson and friends." And there's all these people with whips and guns and hats like that.
Well, that's just like the Blues Brothers, isn't it? When they sing Rawhide.
Yeah.
Rawhide.
Yeah. But the difference was like
times.
when we came to the end of every song, nothing. Just to say, at least they didn't throw anything or whatever. We didn't eat chicken wire. So I
find that hard.
Well, actually, I've got a very thick skin now.
I don't. That's the trouble.
Yeah. With the music that you were listening to, from wherever it was.
Yeah.
What difference did listening to folk music make to the way that you were writing at all?
Oh, I mean, completely fundamental. The English traditional. When we went trogging through to Newcastle to see people we didn't know at the Liberal Club, I'm not sure why we went actually, but we went. And we went in there, and there's John Brennan, the Irish singer, Foster Charlton, the player, and Louis Killen, Johnny Handel, and John Reevy. And they all sat at a table, and it must have been the same pattern that they had down the Singers Club, but I didn't know much about that. And they all sat there, and I was sort of traumatised by it. I thought, what on earth is all this? It was pleasant, so delightful. And I thought, oh my God. And then Reevy singing About 12 years ago I was saying, and I thought, oh my God, I'll never put up with this, you know. I mean, I'm a Woody Guthrie person. And later on, much later on, Graham Miles, the famous Teesside songwriter, told me many, many years later that he'd been there when we all retreated into the cloakroom to sing This Land Is Your Land, just to try and sort of, as therapy, to get ourselves back. But, like that old John Steinbeck short story, or kind of scientific story, about somebody leaving the village and going over the mountain to trade and being put to death, but eventually everybody goes over the mountain. I went over the mountain and I discovered there was some resonance within that. And that's how Pound Week Rise came about. I would have never have done that without the experience of seeing those people. And I spent some time with Reevy, who recently died. And I've just written a song about him, actually. And I would have never been able to do that without Reevy's informal training in the Iron Duke pub in Newcastle.
Selfless. You're so selfless, yeah.
But I would have never been able to do that, really. And so it just calls up something inside you. In point of fact, and I think it happens to me anyway, if you are able to nail that little way of doing things, you can always go back into that thing and go back into that dressing up box and put on that garb and write a song in that fashion.
Yes.
And when Reevy died, I found it extremely easy, to just go floating back through time, listening to Reevy's voice, listening to that rhythm, just write a song as quick as you can possibly write it.
It's sort of like a side question, but what was your attitude to English, like as a subject at school?
Well, very much. It was all down to my dad, really, and because he used to read, Dickens, and he was a well-read man. He was a mind